Welcome back to Simple Mind Space, the podcast that brings you fresh and unique perspectives on everything from personal experiences to thought-provoking ideas. Let's dive right in. Today's topic is one that I find particularly interesting: maximizing content impact while minimizing the actual content itself. It's about saying more with less, conveying information effectively and concisely. This idea first struck me back in my college days. I was living in a shared apartment with some friends, and we were all reading the same online news article. While I meticulously read every single word, one of my roommates simply skimmed through it in a matter of seconds. What surprised me was that when we later discussed the article's content, my roommate, who had barely spent any time on it, still grasped all the key points. That incident got me thinking, are we drowning in an ocean of information? Do we really need to use so many words to convey relatively simple ideas that most people can understand? Shouldn't news articles, reports, and even everyday communication be shorter, more concise, and to the point? Shouldn't we, as consumers of this information, become better at filtering and extracting the most important parts to save time and effort? This thought has stayed with me, popping up whenever I read books, articles, reports, or any kind of written material. Let's rewind back to the days before social media and smartphones. If we wanted to look up the meaning of a word, we had to consult a dictionary, a physical, hefty dictionary. To stay updated on current events, we relied on newspapers or the evening news. Now, with a single device in our pockets, we have access to the entirety of human knowledge at our fingertips. Need to know something? Google it. Want to connect with friends? Facebook or Instagram are just a tap away. Craving entertainment? TikTok, YouTube, you name it, it's there. Need a ride? Grab a ride-sharing service. It seems everything is faster, more convenient, and more readily available than ever before. But at what cost? How has this constant barrage of information and the need for instant gratification affected our ability to process and retain information? In my search for answers, I came across a fascinating and in-depth study conducted by the Technical University of Denmark in April 2019. This study used a massive amount of data and revealed a concerning trend. Our collective attention span is shrinking. The researchers found that while the amount of content is constantly increasing, our ability to focus is diminishing, leading us to constantly switch between topics in search of something new and exciting. One of the key findings was that the peak popularity of any given topic remained relatively stable over time, but the rate at which topics rose to fame and then faded from public consciousness was accelerating. Simply put, things go viral quickly, but they disappear from our collective memory just as fast. Although the long-term effects of this shrinking attention span are still being debated, the researchers suggest that it's forcing journalists and content creators to analyze and present information in increasingly shorter and simpler ways to keep pace with the ever-shortening news cycle. This could have a significant impact on the quality of information available, as complex issues may not receive the in-depth analysis they deserve before the public's attention moves on. Other studies have yielded similar results. A survey conducted in early 2022 found that the average person checks their phone a staggering 344 times a day, totaling almost 200 to 500 times a week. The average daily screen time, 2 hours and 54 minutes. When reading online, the average person only reads 20% of the text in an article, with a maximum of 28%. Think about it. We barely have time to process why one piece of news is trending before another one takes its place. We're bombarded with headlines and snippets of information, constantly jumping from one story to the next without truly absorbing or reflecting on any of it. So we've explored the perspective of the information consumer, but what about those who provide this information? The writers, the journalists. Veteran journalist Nicholas Carr recently spoke about this very issue at a conference. He shared an anecdote about an eye-opening experience he had with one of his own political articles. He had poured his heart and soul into the piece, and it was published online, all 1,600 words of it, divided into manageable chunks of about 400 words each. The website was designed to keep readers engaged, so after each section, they had to click Next to continue reading. Much to Carr's dismay, data revealed a harsh truth. Almost no one who shared or commented on his article actually clicked next to read beyond the first 400 words. The most compelling information, the heart of his argument, was buried at the end, and it seemed no one even got to it. This experience led Carr on a quest for answers. He reached out to researchers, analyzed data from various platforms, and arrived at two main conclusions. First, we are increasingly overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information we encounter daily, forcing us to transition from deep reading to skimming. Second, we have a tendency to share articles and information that we haven't fully read, sometimes not even beyond the headline. These conclusions resonated deeply with me and aligned with the research I had come across. They highlighted a critical issue in our information-saturated world. We're sacrificing depth and understanding for speed and shareability. So, how do we navigate this landscape? Nicholas Carr, in his book, The Shallows: What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains, argues for a more mindful and deliberate approach to information consumption. He advocates for what he calls deep attention, which involves actively engaging with information, taking the time to process and reflect on it, rather than passively consuming it. He suggests a few simple yet powerful strategies, which I've found incredibly helpful in my own work. Prioritize clarity and conciseness. This means being mindful of your audience and their time. Ask yourself, what's the most important thing I want my audience to take away? And focus on delivering that message clearly and directly. Cut the clutter. Every word, sentence, and paragraph should serve a purpose. Avoid unnecessary jargon, complex sentence structures, and long-winded explanations. As the saying goes, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. Keep it simple. Complex ideas can be broken down into digestible chunks. Use clear and concise language, avoiding overly technical terms or jargon. Remember, the goal is to communicate effectively, not to impress with your vocabulary. Humanize your writing. Write in a conversational tone, as if you're speaking directly to your reader. Avoid sounding too formal or academic, and don't be afraid to inject your personality into your writing. Get to the point. In today's fast-paced world, people have limited attention spans. Respect your audience's time by getting to the point quickly and efficiently. Use strong headlines, subheadings, and bullet points to make your writing easily scannable. Now, you might be thinking, this is all well and good for emails, articles, and reports, but what about creative writing? And you'd be right to ask that. While brevity and clarity are essential for effective communication, there's also a time and place for creative expression. Novels, poems, screenplays, these forms of writing thrive on evocative language, complex narratives, and the exploration of human emotions. For me, it's all about finding a balance. I strive to incorporate both concise, informative writing and more creative, expressive styles in my work. My goal is to make complex topics accessible and engaging without sacrificing depth or nuance. So how do we apply this principle of less is more in our daily lives? Whether you're writing an email, preparing a presentation, or even just having a conversation, ask yourself, is this essential? Can I say this more concisely? Will my audience understand and remember this? The 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle, states that roughly 80% of effects come from 20% of causes. Apply this to your communication. Have you focused on the 20% that truly matters? The information that will yield the most significant impact. Even in the workplace, I've found that many meetings, discussions, and documents could be streamlined for greater efficiency. An article on Slack, the popular workplace communication platform, suggests that meetings should ideally last only 15 to 30 minutes and rarely exceed an hour. This resonated with my experience, as I've witnessed countless meetings that seemed to drag on without a clear purpose or outcome. It's important to remember that time is a precious commodity. By being mindful of how we communicate, both in terms of length and clarity, we can save ourselves and others valuable time and energy. In conclusion, while the digital age has brought about a wealth of information, it's also presented us with a new set of challenges. We're constantly bombarded with information, and our attention spans are shrinking. This necessitates a shift in how we consume and process information. We need to be more discerning about the information we choose to consume, and we need to develop strategies for filtering out the noise and focusing on what truly matters. Thank you for joining me. on this exploration of concise communication. I hope you found this episode insightful and helpful. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more thought-provoking content. And be sure to let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on this topic. I'd love to hear your perspective. Until next time, keep those minds sharp and keep exploring new ideas.